What's going on, you guys? I'm going to be covering today the topic of whether or not you need to be training heavy in order to gain muscle. Okay, we're going to start with defining kind of, what does heavy mean? And then I'm going to go into really just whether or not that's the case. And if not, some more practical things, what to be doing to gain muscle, which I'll give you a hint, it's not necessary. All right, but please stay tuned. Anyways, guys, my name is Nick Venuto. I'm an online fitness coach and a trainer, and I've been a coach and a certified strength and conditioning specialist about 7 years now. It's been, or what is it, 6.5 maybe, 6.5. All right. Anyways, let's get right into it. So, first of all, let's define heavy. Okay, with in terms of with training and with strength training and bodybuilding training. Okay, heavy can mean different things. You can think about it in an absolute term, in terms of like, yeah, it's heavy weight, whether it's whatever you think it is, 300 pounds, 400 pounds. The way I would focus more though is heavy in a relative type term. And that's going to be, you can think of it either as a percentage of your one rep max or just in terms of like a weight you can do for X amount of reps. And you can define heavy in different ways. I mean, some people may define heavy as being, when you're doing, 6 reps or fewer. Others maybe like, yeah, somewhere between 1 to 3 reps is heavy in terms of the kind of weight you can lift for those maximal amounts. And those are, and it's somewhat right subjective and such. Um, so that's really what we say when we're talking about whether you're training heavy or not. Things are relative, right? They are relative, but then there's absolute as well. Okay, now obviously, when you're training to gain muscle as well as gain strength, there's interrelation between those two, and there's obviously interrelation as well of training to gain muscle as well as training to get more powerful. And power is just strength with speed. Strength is really just, your ability to exert force. Power would be your ability to exert force with speed. Okay. Now, and when we're talking with training heavy, we're talking usually more about with, you're training for power somewhat, all right, as well as for strength. But some people don't really break out that there's technically it's two different things, strength versus power. So that's one distinction as well. Okay. And with bodybuilding style training, obviously, the stronger a muscle is, the bigger it is, the more force it can exert. That gives it the potential to grow more when you go and train heavier, right? If you can lift heavier weights, other factors equal, you can get bigger. You can grow the muscle more and get more developed, right? Now here's the deal. Well, here's where we get into why you don't necessarily need to train quote unquote heavy. You got to train heavy enough, but you've got a pretty good array of rep ranges you can use to be growing, and each will have a little bit of a different effect. Typical rep ranges to be for bodybuilding and for gaining muscle. It's anywhere from 8 to 20 reps. You know, and but really there can be areas where training lower than 8 reps can be helpful, because if you're getting more powerful or stronger, that will help translate when you're able to lift heavier weights in the 8 to 20 rep range or in any range. You will develop muscle even at lower rep ranges than that. It can go the same. It can also go if you're going above those rep ranges too. If you're doing more than 20 reps, that will help develop muscle too. Even though when you're getting to those higher rep ranges, it's getting more into endurance. But again, endurance, having a level of muscular endurance, which I usually refer to it more muscular conditioning, when you get that, there is translation to gaining muscle. You can handle more workload. And you're still, obviously, even if you're doing reps that are higher, obviously lighter, and it's more geared for doing work for either a longer period of time or more work in the same time, you're still exerting force and stuff, and you're putting the muscles under tension, under tension. So there's interrelatedness where it's not just a really set in stone rep range where you can be gaining muscle at. Okay, and the things that I would focus on in terms of whether you want to be training heavy or not to be gaining muscle, it depends on things such as what your training stage is, what your goals are, just your personal abilities, any kind of injury histories, and just relative strengths of your muscles in terms of this is strong enough, this is strong in this relation, this muscle here, but this muscle maybe is this strong. You got to think of it in terms of that and weigh what's going to be best for you if it's going heavier or if you use lighter, and use different kinds of techniques, whether it be intensity or more volume in your workouts. We'll talk a little bit about with training stage. Everyone's different. This isn't set in stone, but generally the more advanced you get with your training, presumably you're getting stronger. Typically what happens the more advanced you get, you with bodybuilding this is, and with training for gaining muscle. I'm not talking about with athletes. I'm just talking about anyone that's working to bodybuild in terms of gaining muscle and hypertrophy. What happens typically is you shift more to volume oriented approaches where it's more important about getting a certain amount of workload in, your total workload over a workout versus just going as heavy as can be. All right, and there's a balance between the two. You want to train heavy enough as well as with enough volume, whether you're emphasizing volume or training to get stronger, i.e., lifting heavier. Okay, when you're a beginner, obviously, most beginners are going to be weaker when they start and such. There are some exceptions. Some people come into the gym right away and they just have a gift that they're just have a very good aptitude and they can lift pretty heavy to start, whether it be on a bench press or a squat or a deadlift or whatever. There are cases, but generally they're not as strong, not able to lift as much weight. So it makes a lot of sense with beginners can get started with training to get stronger and can lift, relatively heavy, right? Someone who's really advanced, maybe they're in their 40s or even if they're in their 30s, whatever age, and they've got a lot of time under their, got a lot of time in the gym. They may have injuries piled up, just your joints and stuff, everything. We do degenerate unless you're really actively working to make things better. Then you still degenerate. There's more risk for someone who's been at it for a long time, who's stronger. Maybe they're benching 300 plus pounds, squatting 400 or 500 plus, and versus someone that gets started, maybe they're only able to bench between 100 to 150 pounds, and maybe they can squat no more than 200 pounds, right? There's more relative risk for that person that's more advanced, not only just based on that they're just able to move a lot more load based on how strong they are, but just with the things with just what happens when we age and when we train long enough, there is wear and tear on the body. All right. So that's just in general what happens. Someone that's more newer, maybe more likely that it's better for them to be training heavier relatively. Someone that has been in it longer, they not always, but maybe better for them to not be training as heavy and to have more other kinds of ways to help grow versus just loading bars. All right, so that's what training stage. Goals as well. Look, if you're looking to you're still kind of adding the dense muscle tissue and just kind of getting the hang with exercises and stuff, um, you know, you may be training relatively heavier as you're just working to kind of build your physique and such, right? You may be training heavier, or at least when you get past the stage where you've got the form down and such, right? You always want to start light with things until you learn the form. And the more advanced you get, when people that are just looking to more maintain or just kind of get better balance to their physique, more so than just gaining sheer size, they don't have to train as heavy if they don't want to. All right. So that's what goals too. If you're looking to get more conditioned, more volume oriented approaches and higher reps can be more helpful versus if you're looking to get more stronger or more powerful, then, you lift heavier, right? At least in part. And it's totally judgmental based on what you want to achieve, and with gaining muscle, that's a physique related goal versus getting stronger or getting more powerful is more a training related goal, or gaining more endurance, getting more conditioned for that matter. And you have to figure how is it going to help you with how you want to look at your physique, whether you're looking to just get sheerly bigger, you're looking just kind of, you're just trying to develop your muscles better, you know, all these kinds of things can go into effect, and any of them can help you with those goals. We just got to figure what's a little bit better for it. All right. And again, in general, if lifting heavier can help with gaining strength and power and gaining just dense muscle and more size and stuff. And then with, more of the more volume oriented approaches or using more intensity techniques, pre fatiguing, things like, what else? Like, basically just things that where maybe it's more related to trying to get more conditioned and not training as heavy, that also can have its place where you're just developing the intensity to get yourself to break down muscle fibers and grow in a different way than just loading up barbells. Okay, so that was goals. Okay, now let's talk about a little bit with I'm putting these together with kind of injury history, any kind of areas that bother you or that are not quite as they should be, or if you have just kind of strength imbalances. Um, whether it be like injury history, areas that bother you, or if there's just strength imbalances, that's going to make it more likely that, going heavy is going to be a more riskier thing for you. All right. The way this pans out with when there's strength imbalances, you're only as strong as like your weakest chain in the link. Because when we talk about going heavy, I mean, we're talking about with big compound movements where more than one joint's changing angles, right? Bench presses, incline presses, bent over rows, deadlifts, squats. Um, that's more than one joint changing angle. That's typically when you're going to be going heavy, so to speak, most likely. You know, and if you have one area that's just a problem, maybe it's your lower back with squats or deadlifts, or maybe just a shoulder or an elbow is a problem area for you, so you don't want to be benching and pressing heavy. Is that those are times that you would, with your risk tolerance, depending what it is, you may want to decide, hey, I don't want to be going heavy. I want to find other ways to be still training hard and heavy enough to grow, but not just the pure focus isn't just on loading more weight on the bar. All right. And then, yeah, injury history, obviously the same way. If you have problem joint areas that you just already had injury history with, and maybe there's cartilage issues in a joint, or just you just very have a proclivity that just you've gotten hurt on exercises before, and you don't want to go heavy with them anymore. Or that, or you may say, no, I still want to go heavy, but then you got to do the work to make sure that your physique is balanced well enough that you can safely do it, and your form is on point well enough. All right. So you think I covered the main gist of with going heavy or not. Obviously, I answered the question if you don't have to. It going heavier and stuff, especially with main compound lifts with barbells and free weights, dumbbells, that is, or anything for that matter, but especially with those kinds of lifts, that is very helpful with building a good strength base. All right, because the more weight you lift with the proper form and in the right rep ranges and such, I mean, yeah, it helps you gain more muscle. All right, but it's always a balance, and so no one needs to be going like stupid heavy with things, even saying that they have good form, but no one technically needs to be going super heavy with stuff, with, training for power, with going below, getting below those, 5 reps and less reps in a set. No one has to, but it definitely helps with getting more powerful, with developing the kind of muscle fibers that are you activate in those kinds of ranges, which are the fast twitch muscle fibers, which have a great potential for growth. It absolutely can, but you don't have to. You have to kind of assess your risk tolerance and stuff. And you just got to figure it on an individual basis. And it's partly to seeing what works for you and stuff. Okay. So to reiterate, you don't have to be training heavy to be gaining muscle, but it certainly does help. But just you got to make sure that your body is well tuned for it, given your injury history and your ability with just your biomechanics and your form and technique. And you just got to have a good overall. It's not just only about going heavy. You got to obviously have a good overall program structure in place with the workouts, and obviously with nutrition and lifestyle too. All right. So that's the kind of feedback I can give you. And just, you're welcome to, it's very on a case by case basis, and everyone just has their own risk tolerance, So there's no set answer, but except that you don't technically need to train heavy to be gaining muscle. There's more ways than one to do it. All right. Let me know any questions you have and stuff, and please subscribe. I'm also on Instagram at Nick Venuto Fitness. Love for you to follow me there, and please subscribe here on YouTube, where I'm going to continue sharing content, helping you guys with gaining muscle, gaining strength, and gaining lean muscle and such, and especially helping you with those that are in a demanding work field as well, because I'm in that camp myself, and I've experienced what you're going through as well with balancing all this with your career. Anyways, guys, take care. Please subscribe. Thank you so much.